Hello, my name is Myra. Welcome to another video. Now, at the beginning of March, on March 8th specifically, it was International Women's Day, and I thought in honor of that day and just kind of celebrating womanhood, I would talk about some of my favorite authors. Now, I do read mainly romance books, and it is pretty much women dominated. There is some male romance authors, but it's mainly women who are writing romance books. Now, with that said, I do have some favorites. I have some that have been favorites for a while, and then I have some authors that are recent favorites. So I thought it would be interesting to kind of talk about both and talk about some of my favorite books that each of them have. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and start off with Sarah J. Maas. Now, she has very quickly become one of my favorites. I started with the ACOTAR series, which I read about, well, I read last year, but then I started reading Throne of Glass at the very beginning of this year, and then right after I'm done with that, I'm gonna be reading Crescent City. ACOTAR so far though is still my favorite. I don't know. There's something, especially this book, oh my gosh, if you know, you know. I don't wanna spoil anything for anyone that hasn't read it, but I have a favorite. My book boyfriend, like, he's top tier. Like, even from all the other books that I've read, whether it's mafia, fantasy, whatever, he's my he's my book boyfriend, my boyfriend. Yeah, my boyfriend hears that, he's gonna be like, excuse me, I'm your boyfriend. And so I have a real life boyfriend, but like Rhysand is like, he's number one. Like, no one compares, no one's gonna knock him down. At least I don't see it coming, honestly, because even like when I was really thinking about it, I'm like, is there any other one? It's like, no, like they'll make the top, like, you know, 5 list, whatever, but Rhysand is gonna be number one. So yeah, I love her books. I have been hooked on her books. Throne of Glass, again, I really like it. That one is definitely more fantasy driven, but ACOTAR, if you like romance, like fantasy or romantasy, like a lot of people are calling it nowadays, you would probably really like the ACOTAR series. I will say, book 1, you have to push through it. Like a lot of fantasy books, there has to be some world building, and some fantasy books I've seen, like sometimes they start off with like, there's world building, but it's kind of intermingled. So like as other things are happening, you start finding out about the world. And then there's some books that start very much about the world, and then they kind of start really like taking off from there. And then there's other elements that kind of get squeezed in. And that was book 1 in the ACOTAR series. So again, this one is my favorite book. My favorite series though, ACOTAR, hands down. I haven't finished Throne of Glass, but I only have 3 books left. I'm currently doing the tandem read, which again, if you know, you know. But still, this one is like supreme. So yeah, Sarah J. Maas, big fan. The next one that I have here on my list is Anna Huang. Now, I actually read the Twisted series, I think 3 years ago. I think it was 2021, maybe even 2020. Now, I really liked this series. I preferred Twisted Games out of like the Twisted series, and then in her current Kings of Sin series, I really enjoyed King of Greed. If you haven't read her books, this one is 4 friends. Each book is basically about each friend finding like their happily ever after. And in the series, you have a best friend's brother, you have brother's best friend, obviously. You have Grumpy Sunshine, enemies to lovers, billionaire social media influencer, doctor, lawyer, I don't know. Like you have a mix in the Twisted series. What I really like about the series too though is like the group of friends, like the girls, like the women in this group, like they're so, like they're always there for each other through like the thick and the thin, and they are ride or dies. And just reading about that friendship, like that female friendship, just, it was so nice. It was so wholesome, and it just, I don't know. I feel like that was like a really nice element that is like really intermingled through all 4 books, even though each girl, like I said, each woman in this series is finding their happily ever after. Again, Twisted Games is my favorite. I actually recently reread it, but it was actually a re-listen because I read the physical book the first time and then I listened to it recently, and the audiobook is top tier. It was on the Libby app, so I was able to listen to it for free, obviously through my library, but I recommend it. Honestly, if you have the Libby app, and if you don't have it, take advantage of it because it's literally free. if your library has the audiobook, please listen to it because oh my gosh, the narration, perfect. But yeah, really like this series. Again, she also has the Kings of Sin series. That one is, they're all billionaires. But what I like about that one too is that there is still some aspects like this one of like just female friendship and then even male friendship too, even though these are all billionaires. Like they're all in the same circle. They're not best friends, but they know of each other because they're all billionaires. So yeah, I really like the series so far though. And again, King of Greed on that series is my favorite. That one is a marriage in trouble. And it was so good. Loved it, loved it. I know the next thing that she has coming out is King of Sloth, and I want to say that that's coming out next month. So that's another one that I'm super interested in reading and just kind of seeing how like the world goes on from there. But Anna Huang, again, another author that I definitely recommend. And of course, I feel like I have to mention her. She actually is the one that I probably own the most books by. Now granted, I don't have a huge library yet. I'm little by little buying books and like adding things to my collection, but Sophie Lark, I mean, she is incredible. I started reading the Brutal Birthright series, which is actually, this is the second gen. So you have the Brutal Birthright series and it's pretty much the parents of the kids from these books, which is a whole different series. And this is the Kingmaker series. Now these are mafia books. They're mafia romance books. And again, the first one is the Brutal Birthright series, and it has to do with two mafia families that are living in the same state. And the very first book, you have an arranged marriage. And it's to basically try to get these two very powerful families to get along, and that way they don't have to be at war with each other, and they pretty much solidify their partnership and make each other stronger against their outside enemies. So that's how the first book goes on, and from there all of the siblings on both sides of the family basically end up finding their happily ever after. And then you have this series, which is the Kingmakers Academy. And I think honestly, this is my favorite. In this series, you have, again, it's second gen. So these are kids that are all going to a mafia academy. So picture like Hogwarts, it's a boarding school and it's totally secluded from everything. Like it's really hard to get in there. Like you have to go into like you have to fly somewhere, take a boat, and then like it's really rocky, like just getting on, it's basically an island. And you have mafia kids from all around the world. And these are not, this is not high school, like this is college, but it's a different type of college because they're basically running, like they're learning how to run the family business. And again, these are all mafia kids. So you have some that are learning how to do like more like the money side, and some of how to actually run it and like lead it like physically. Other people like the enforcers, just stuff like that. And it was such a good series. Like it's so interesting to me. And these were such quick reads. Like they're all pretty much around the 300-page mark, if I'm not wrong. Let me double check. Yeah, this one was 340 something pages. Yeah, and the epilogue is already at 344. So these are like nice quick reads and they're so interesting. And Sophie Lark just does such a good job with the spice. Like the spice is always so good. There's a scene in a library in this book. It lives rent free in my mind. Like I will randomly think about it and I'm just like, I don't know, it's so hot. Like I don't know if that's too much to share, but it really is. Like the Rebel, I don't know, this, I think that's probably why, like whenever I talk about Sophie Lark and I talk about this series, I always pick this book up. I have the rest of them, you can't see them, but I have the rest of them on this other shelf right there, like the floating shelf, and I always grab this one because Miles just, I don't know, I'm telling you, it's that library scene. Now she does have other books though. She also has Minx, which that one is a standalone. So if you do want to read that one, it's about, she's an escort, but she's a high-end escort. And that one was really interesting. There's like role playing involved and it's called Minx for a reason, but I don't want to spoil it. So yeah, that one was really good. I'm about to start reading, I don't know what the name of the series is, but I know it's called There Is No Saints, or There Are No Saints. Something like that. It's a duet. I'm about to start reading that one. And then I haven't read her other book, but she has Grimstone, which I know is like spooky vibes. So I'll be reading that later on this year. It came out last year during like Halloween, or like right around Halloween. And then she also has an Anastasia retelling, which I actually never watched that movie, which I know she's like a princess, whatever. I actually never watched it as a kid, but I'm really interested to read it because I know a lot of people that did read it and like really enjoyed it. So I think it'd be interesting because so far I really just know about like her mafia series. She has another one. Oh my gosh, I read Ivan in that one. So I read Ivan, and then I know Snow is the second book. I can't remember what the name of that series is, but it's another mafia one. Ivan, again, really enjoyed it, really liked it. I started Snow, and then I jumped into this one, and I wish I would have finished Snow because there is a like connection with her 3 mafia series. So anyway, I'm gonna finish those, but again, if you are looking for mafia, if that is your thing, she does mafia really, really well. Now, next on my list, I also have a sports romance author. This is an author that honestly, I don't hear people talking about her books, and I really don't know why, because I have really, really enjoyed him. And this author is Samantha Whiskey. I've actually read her football series and her hockey series, and these romance books are so good. They all have strong heroines, really sexy athletes. The spice is really well written, nothing super crazy, but also nothing where it's like taking away from the plot. They're all just so good. I think pretty much all of the books, if they're not 5-star, they're like about 4.5 stars for me. They are so good. Samantha Whiskey does have a series that I haven't read. I think it's like the Sharks. I know what the name of the team, like they're Sharks, that's the name of the team. It's another hockey team, but I can't remember what that series is, and I am definitely going to be reading them. Now, all her books are on Kindle Unlimited, and you really get a variety of everything. You have arranged marriage, you have opposites attract, you have best friend's brother or like best friend's sister, you have teammates sister, yeah, you have everything. You really do. So Samantha Whiskey, again, someone that I don't really hear talked about as much, but I definitely recommend her sports romances because they are so good. So check her out. I also know, I think she has a vampire series, and I will be picking that up pretty soon because lately I've been reading a lot of like paranormal romances. So I've been reading a lot of like vampires and shapeshifters. So that's a series that I really want to get into, but I know she has, yeah, they're vampires, or are they billionaires? No, I'm pretty sure they're vampires. Yeah. So anyway, Samantha Whiskey, check her out. Next on my list, I also have Gianna Darling. Gianna Darling is a new to me author, but she is an author that I am going to continue to read her books and her releases that come out in the future because I love her writing. I read Lessons in Corruption, which is the first book in a motorcycle club series. I really liked it. That one was a reverse age gap book, and it also was like taboo because it is student teacher. So the teacher is a woman and the student is a male, obviously, and it's reverse age gap, like I said, so she's older than him. But it was so well done, and it was so mature. Really liked it. I have to continue on with that series, and I do have it downloaded on my Kindle because I will be reading that very soon. And that's going to be basically like my treadmill reads. I like reading when I'm on the treadmill. It makes time go by like this, so that's a little free hack for you if you're trying to get a little bit more, you know, movement in your body. Read on the treadmill, and literally, like, if you're trying to do 10-15 minutes on the treadmill, half an hour, whatever it is that you're trying to do, trust me, it'll go by a lot faster. But anyway, I also read recently Serpentine Valentine. It was my first sapphic romance, and I absolutely loved it. That was a 5-star read for me for February, and it was so good. That one is a Medusa retelling, and it is a like dark academia vibe book, and it was so good. And with that one too, there was a lot of, it is a little bit darker, like it has some elements that I would definitely check triggers for, just because there is sexual assault that is mentioned in the book. You can definitely skip through the actual assault when it happens, but it is mentioned throughout the book, so just know that going in. But it was also really empowering, and there was like this sisterhood that was formed in the book with like the main heroine and other women at her college campus. And as enraging as it was to kind of see it, because as a woman, you know, you kind of feel like, oh my gosh, like how could someone do this to someone? Like how could, you know, like you can't even fathom, you can't even understand like how someone can do something like that to like another human being. But it was so empowering, and it was just so, I don't know, Serpentine Valentine, if you even just only pick one book up from like Gianna Darling, read that book. It was so good. But I am going to be going through the rest of the books in her Motorcycle Club series, and anything else that she releases, I will be there. I'll be there. Last but not least, this is a very new to me author, and this is Tessa Halley. Now, I read Twilight of Embers last month. Oh my gosh, I was obsessed. Oh my gosh. Okay. I love dragons. Like, honestly, I just think dragons are so badass. I think even after like I read Fourth Wing and stuff, like it just made it even more like dragons. And this one, you have dragon shifters. It is a white choose romance also. And you have this girl who is entering college, and she has no idea that she is not fully human. Like, she doesn't know that she's a dragon. And on her very first day, when she's arriving at campus for like orientation and stuff, she meets a guy named Knox, and he starts to introduce her to like his brothers, who are like not blood brothers, but like his brothers by choice. But it turns out that it's like fated mates, and like she's their fated mate, and she doesn't know that, but they are finding all this out. And it's this whole thing. Now, she does have, I think, 2 other books that are coming out. So it's like a 3-book series following them. And when I tell you that when I finished that book, I was like, wait, when does the second book come out? And then when I saw it comes out until April, I was like, why? Like, why? I even like tagged her on Instagram, and I was like, feel free to release it ahead of time if you want to. Like, you know, if you end up being like, let me release it like a week or so early, or even like a month early, like, please do it, because it was so good. So I will, that's what I'll be doing on April, I think it's April 19th. Yeah. Taylor Swift, Tessa Halley. Those are the 2 things that I'm going to be focusing on that day and that weekend. But I will, like, that's really the only book that I've read by her, but I enjoyed it. I read it so fast. And then I saw that she has other romances that are similar to this. I don't think that she has any other dragon shifter romances, but I think I saw one with like, it might be wolves, like werewolves. I don't know. I'm not sure, but I'm going to be working my way through her backlist, because honestly, it was so good. I read it in like a day and a half, and it only even took me that long because I had to be at work. So then, like, I was reading it at the end of the day, and then I just kept reading it. I stayed up late to like continue reading it. And then the next morning, when I finally was like, okay, you know what, let me get a few hours of sleep. When I got up the next morning, I was just like reading. Wow, thanks. They just felt like starting to cut some trees over there. So anyway, these are some of my favorite authors that I thought I would mention. If you've read any of these books, please let me know which ones you've read. If you have any female authors that you want to give a shout out to, please mention it down in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.